Hi there, I'm Nancy Nash with Starfish Strength. I'm passionate about healthy eating all year long, and today I want to share a recipe with you for a healthier green bean casserole. I really loved green bean casserole growing up as a kid, but I usually ate the version that was made with cream of mushroom soup and canned green beans. As I got older, my taste matured and I wanted to try making it from scratch, and I did. It was still kind of a heavy dish, but it was delicious. So I've kind of taken all of the variations that I've made and made a healthier version that I want to share with you today that I think is both delicious and nutritious, and I hope you agree. For today's recipe, you'll want about 2.5 pounds of fresh green beans, some fresh squeezed lemon juice, 5 medium sweet Vidalia onions, 2 cloves of garlic, a good bunch of fresh thyme or dried thyme, light sour cream, 16 ounces of fresh mushrooms, variety of your choice, a half cup of dried or freeze-dried mushrooms, cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, fresh ground pepper, 2 cups of stock or bone broth, chicken, turkey, or vegetable stock all work great, and salt to taste. I'm going to be topping my casserole with Lars Own French fried onions. You could also just chop up some scallions, use some caramelized onions if you're trying to keep this super healthy. This does make it a little bit indulgent, but they're really delicious. This dish can be made ahead of time and refrigerated for a couple days. So if you're planning to eat this today, you want to start by preheating your oven to 400 degrees. So we're going to start by caramelizing our onions. So we want to slice the ends off the onions and peel them. And then I'm going to slice each of them in half and slice them as thinly as I can. I'm not dicing them, but I do want those long, beautiful caramelized strands. So to do that, I do need to make sure that I slice my onions relatively evenly. So if you want to use something like a mandolin to do this, or you have another kitchen gadget for onions, this would be a great time to pull that out. And if onions tend to make you tear, definitely don't be shy about grabbing some sunglasses. And then we're going to put all of our sliced onions into a medium-sized Dutch oven, or if you have a large frying pan, like 16 or 18 inches that has sides, that will work really well. Because remember, all of this volume is going to kind of cook down, and then we're also going to want to add our green beans and mushrooms to it. So we do need a fair bit of space. And as you're putting the onions in the pan, just make sure you're kind of separating them a little bit because we don't want any clumps as we're trying to cook this. We want everything to cook as evenly as possible. So once all of my onions are added to the pan, I'm going to turn my burner on medium-high, and then I'm actually going to cover this with a lid so that the onions can start to sweat. And as they begin to caramelize, we will turn this down and eventually remove the lid so that all of that liquid reduces. So every couple minutes, I'm just going to give this a stir, move things around, make sure that everything is heating evenly. And while our onions cook, we're going to smash up our garlic. So I just want 2 large cloves or maybe 3 medium ones. If you really love garlic, you could use a whole lot more. I know a lot of people use the side of their knife to smash garlic. I like to use my meat mallet, maybe a little bit safer and a little more fun. You could definitely, if you have a garlic press, use that. And then we're just going to mince up our 3 garlic cloves. If you already have minced garlic in your refrigerator, please feel free to use that. I'm not going to judge you. And if you don't have fresh garlic, you could always substitute a tablespoon of garlic powder. So our onions are beginning to sweat. They've been cooking like this for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to leave them on this temperature for about 10 more minutes just because this is a lot of onions. And I'm going to add my garlic in now. And I just want to make sure that I'm stirring it around every couple minutes so that everything is cooking evenly and the garlic doesn't stand a chance of burning. So next we're going to wash dry and slice our mushrooms. So I'm just going to rinse my mushrooms to get off any loose dirt that I can. And then I'll use the paper towels to blot them and get off any fine little bits of grit. Now, I have noticed a lot of pre-sliced mushrooms seem a lot cleaner looking than the whole ones. So if you want to go ahead and use those, I pass no judgment. We are going to slice these fairly thinly, just so again, they saute really nicely. They all cook evenly. I'm just going to do what I would call like a rough chop. And if you have anyone in your family that does not like the texture of mushrooms, you might want to cut these up really, really fine. And then don't forget to keep stirring our onions. So our onions have been cooking for about 20 minutes on medium-high, and they are really starting to sweat. They're starting to caramelize, so I'm actually going to turn it down to medium-low. You want to kind of check and see how much liquid is in your pan. So right now there's not very much liquid in my pan, so I'm going to leave it covered. But if you start to see that there is liquid building up, then I would leave it uncovered for a couple minutes, because the goal is to get them to caramelize and not burn. So sometimes it takes a little bit of delicate back and forth depending on the size of your pan. It might depend on your stovetop and how evenly that heats. So once your mushrooms are cut to your desired level of diced, mine are very roughly chopped, I'm going to add them all into my onions and just gently stir them in. And then I'm going to place my lid back on my pan while we grab our spices. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, a half teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you or your family does not really like heat, you can definitely omit this. And then we want to add about 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme leaves. Now, if you're substituting dried thyme, it's probably going to be more like 2 teaspoons. Now, as long as your thyme is pretty clean, you can actually just pull the little leaves off right into your onions. You could also do that into a small bowl just to make sure that you don't get any little stem parts. Some of those stems are really woody and you definitely don't want them in there. The green ones, those are usually okay to chop up and they taste just like thyme, but the leaves are really what we're after. And if you have a child or a dog in your life that enjoys leaves as much as my puppy does, make sure you share some with them. So once we add our spices, we're probably going to continue to keep this uncovered because the fresh mushrooms release a lot of water, as you're probably seeing. So just make sure you're continuing to stir it every couple of minutes and just kind of keeping an eye on things to make sure they're cooking evenly. And actually, the fact that they're releasing water is really great because next we're going to add in our dried mushrooms, which are going to soak up a lot of that water. So I bought several different types of dried mushrooms over the years. Sometimes they come so that they're almost already diced. These are pretty big and loose, so I'm probably just going to break these up. You could also chop them really finely, but they seem like they're pretty dry, so I'm just going to crumble them. And I've used several different types of mushrooms. This is an assortment, but really the point here is that it's adding that deep, earthy flavor. When we kind of combine this flavor with the thyme and the sour cream, it starts to taste like a really good homemade cream of mushroom soup. So next, I want to add in my bone broth or stock, and then go ahead and give everything a good stir to combine. So while those flavors are continuing to get to know each other, we're going to wash, dry, and trim our green beans. So if you have a kid helping you, you could literally just have them snap off the ends of the green beans. Just so everything looks nice, I am going to go ahead and trim all of them off with a knife. But just know that's an option if you have pretty clean, nice green beans. And raw green beans make a pretty good snack while you're cooking. So I like to line up like 7 of these at once and just chop the ends off. So even while we're taking the stems off of our green beans, just make sure you're continuing to stir your mushrooms and onions, and everything is coming together and looking really lovely. So I'm just going to give this a quick taste. Make sure you let it cool down first so that you can just kind of see how the flavors are developing. So that tastes really, really good. If you're someone that does like onion soup, this tastes like that combination of onion soup, hinting at that cream of mushroom flavor. Haven't added anything creamy yet, but still kind of getting that depth of flavor. So once you've removed all of the ends of your green beans, we're going to take them and put them all into our onion mushroom mixture. If you do have any that are particularly long, you could cut them in half, and you could really cut your green beans down a lot finer than I am. I'm leaving them pretty whole, so that's completely up to your preference. And then I'm just going to carefully mix this, and we're going to cook everything together for about 10 minutes before we put it into our casserole dishes and put it in the oven. So what you should see at this point is that your onions have reduced by at least half their size. They might even be even smaller than that, closer to a third of their size, and that the liquid you added has also reduced by about half. So I am covering this just to make sure that the green beans are starting to heat evenly, and then make sure you stir it a couple times too during this 10 minutes. So this is starting to smell really good. The green beans are still looking pretty merry and bright, so I'm going to let them go for a few more minutes. So while they're cooking just a little bit further, I'm going to juice our lemon and get our sour cream ready, because we're going to add those once we shut the heat off. So to get our lemon to juice a little bit more, I'm just going to roll it a couple times. So you'll probably just need to juice half your lemon, because we're just looking for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So my green beans are still pretty green, but that really bright green color has left them. So I'm going to call this good and shut this off, because again, they are going to cook for about 30 more minutes in the oven. So make sure you've got no seeds in your lemon juice. If you're particularly picky about pulp, you could also strain this. And then we want about half a cup of light sour cream. So I'm just going to slowly kind of dot my sour cream in here and stir it in with my spatula, because I'm not trying to cause this to curdle at all. And if this isn't cooling down very quickly for you, you could always kind of temper the sour cream. You could take a little onion mushroom mixture to the side, stir it in with the sour cream, and then add it into here. And then you'll be sure that it doesn't curdle. So now would be a great time to add some salt if you feel like it needs any. But the lemon juice is definitely going to hit the palate a little bit in a similar way that sodium does. So see what you think. Again, I'm not a chef. I'm just a girl that likes to make food that I think is delicious, more nutritious. Please feel free to put your own spin on it and let me know how you like it. So after everything looks pretty thoroughly combined, we're going to add this into our casserole dishes. So this should fit pretty well into a 9x13 casserole dish. You could also cook this into smaller dishes, which is actually what I'm going to do, because then I can refrigerate one for later on and have one tonight. So I have an 8x8 and a 9x9 baking pan, and I'm just gonna coat them with non-stick spray just so we don't have too much sticking. And then I'm just gonna divide this as evenly as I can into our 2 dishes. So if you are serving this a different day, now would be the time to let this cool down and cover it, and you can cook it the day of. I myself am going to let one of these cool and freeze it and then bring it back to life on Thanksgiving. But for the one that we're cooking today, we're going to let it cook uncovered for about 30 minutes in a 400-degree oven. And I will check it at about 20 minutes just to see how it's doing. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Sometimes it doesn't take quite as long. This is the only thing I have in my oven right now, so it's probably not going to take as long as it might on Thanksgiving when I have other things going. So our casserole's been cooking for about 30 minutes and it's beginning to smell really good in here. So let's check it and see if it's done. And if it is, we're going to top it with our crispy onions. That's looking great. So I'll just give you an opportunity to peek at the uncooked and the cooked one for comparison. So this is what I'm looking for, to see that the green beans are looking pretty done, a little crispy on the edges. So I'm going to top this with a half cup of the Lars Own French fried onions. And then we're going to put this back into the oven for 5 to 10 minutes or until our crispy onions are really crispy and brown. So it just took about 10 minutes for our green bean casserole to get golden brown on top. So you can see all the little crispy onions are nice and brown. So I suggest letting this cool for about 20 minutes before tasting it. So now that our casserole's had some time to cool, let's go ahead and give it a taste. So you can see it's still pretty warm. And the first thing I noticed was that I could really smell the mushrooms and onions. For me, this hits all the right notes. You've got those nice crunchy onions on top. So you get this complex flavor between the fresh mushrooms and the dried mushrooms. You can taste the cayenne and the smoked paprika and the thyme and the lemon all kind of popping through. And it's really nice and creamy because of how long we spent caramelizing those onions and then adding the sour cream at the end. Now, this is one of those dishes that the longer it sits, the more it has time to come together, and it's arguably better on the second day. If you did the method where you cooked it up, you're going to keep it in the fridge for a couple days and put the crispy onions on a couple days later, you're probably really going to feel like this is the complete package. So if you love green bean casserole as much as I do, I hope you give this a try, and please let me know how you like it. Thanks so much for taking time to cook with me today. I hope you feel better set up with a holiday side dish to bring to your next gathering. If you are looking for more healthy recipes, workouts, or healthy lifestyle tips, please check out the rest of my YouTube channel. And if you're looking for assistance working towards your exercise and nutrition goals, you can always reach out to me in the link in the description. In the meantime, I look forward to continuing this journey with you, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for making time to cook with me today. I hope that you feel better prepared with a great... Hi, do you want to do the outro?
Can we trade a green bean for some peace and quiet? No howling, okay? Do you like green beans?
I know, the sirens are going off. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So while they're cooking down a little bit more, I'm going to juice our lemon. And we'll